So I just got back from watching Star Wars The Last Jedi, and I thought it was really frustratingly messy but fun. I'm really conflicted about this movie because I did like a lot of parts in this film, but I also really hated a lot of other parts. Keep in mind that this review is not going to be spoiler free. I'm just diving right the fuck into it. So if you haven't seen this movie and you want to go see it, then go check it out. So that was your spoiler warning. 3, 2, 1, go. I'm going to talk about the good part really quick. And I mean really quick. I really liked Rey, Kylo, and Luke. Somewhat. Rey and Kylo do a fantastic job once again, and Adam Driver is a great actor in this film. He really steals every scene that he's in, and Kylo Ren becomes more of a menace than he was last episode. I felt like last episode he was more of like a spoiled brat than he was an actual villain, and in this film he's a lot closer to becoming that new Darth Vader that everyone wants him to be so badly. I thought the film looked great visually, and it had some really entertaining and breathtaking moments. John Williams' score is fantastic as always, and the direction overall is good from Rian Johnson. This is a good and entertaining film if you just sit down and don't think about it, but this movie felt really worthless, if that makes sense. This episode didn't really feel like it went anywhere. None of the characters grew, nothing changed. That's about it for the good part. And now I'm going to talk about the parts that I had issues with. Everyone was fucking stupid in this movie. I'm talking mostly about Poe, Dameron, and Finn. You know, the plan that they had that wasted 45 minutes of the movie and cost them 95% of the rebellion's army. Yeah, that plan. The new Admiral felt completely worthless too. She didn't do anything in this film. She had one sacrifice moment, but she didn't feel anything because you didn't care. She was introduced an hour before, and then she died. If Admiral Akbar had made that lightspeed sacrifice instead of just dying in an explosion, it would have made more of an impact on me, and it would have felt more. Sure, Admiral Akbar isn't that important of a character to me, but he's better than what we had. And people are saying that Admiral Akbar died just like that because the voice actor for Admiral Akbar passed away, unfortunately. But, I mean, it's a voice. People can easily make that voice again, and I don't understand why they had to do it this way. That Leia scene. You know which one. I felt like her death was fine. If it had just cut away from the ship explosion and they had a funeral for her, it would have felt like a real blow to the rebellion as they struggled to find new leadership. And I think it would have been a really nice send-off to Princess Leia's fans. She died in the battle. She died doing what she was fighting for. Her light of hope will never diminish. But they found the dumbest fucking way to ruin that scene. When she's floating in space and she's starting to freeze over, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a little morbid, don't you think? But then her fingers start twitching and her eyes open, and I'm like, what the fuck? When she starts floating towards like the debris of the ship and going inside the hole, I fucking bust out laughing. That scene was so horrendously bad. It's honestly one of the new like worst moments in the entire Star Wars series. I just felt it was super out of nowhere, really out of place, and it just took away a moment that would have been really impactful and would have been really emotional for a lot of people out there. Speaking of character deaths, Luke's death was nice, but it was dragged on a little too long. In my honest opinion, I feel like Kylo should have just killed him then and there on the Salt Planet. Similar to how Darth Vader killed Obi-Wan in A New Hope. Yeah, it would have felt really similar, but I mean, it's Star Wars. Story elements repeat themselves all the time. Luke's death in this film was literally Yoda's death. So I felt like it was a little too dragged out, and once again, it took away another powerful moment that there could have been. Similar to, for example, The Force Awakens, you know, Kylo killing Han Solo. While it's really easy to predict and you can see it from a mile away, it still had that nice punch, that impact to it. This film didn't have any of that. And the things that were there and that could have been potentially impactful were fucking ruined. Speaking of ruining moments, Rose was a pretty bad character in my opinion. She did nothing really. Her and Finn's mission was really pointless, and she ruined the biggest emotional moment in the film for me. I'm talking, of course, about Finn's sacrifice. So they're being like pinned down by the Empire. I'm gonna call them the Empire. They're being pinned down by the Empire, and you know, this giant machine that's parked way too far away, by the way, is gonna come, bust down the doors, and slaughter everyone. Finn and Poe and Rose and a few others, they decided they're going to go out there and just blitz it. They're going to give it everything they got, one final effort, because their backs against the wall. It's awesome. The scene itself, the fight scene is really good, except for all the TIE fighters going away to chase one ship. Don't talk about that one. That's just stupid. But, the salt planet's really cool looking. It's a nice battle. And then they decide to turn away because it's a suicide mission. They're going to die if they try to stop it. But Finn decides, you know what? No, this is for the better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to sacrifice myself for the cause. And for a brief second, the film fucking tricked me into thinking that something was actually going to happen. I didn't buy it at first. I knew that, Finn was going to be okay, but there was a half a second where I was like, oh wait, they're actually going to kill him off. Because the music starts picking up, he closes his eyes, he's ready to go, he's ready to do this. And then fucking Rose, out of nowhere, just knocks him out of the way. Not only endangering both of their lives, almost killing both of them, but fucking ruining any chance that the rebellion had to get out of that situation. It was the most selfish, stupid, borderline psychotic decision I've ever fucking seen in a Star Wars movie. And the scene that follows after it was so awful that it completely took me out of the movie. Where she's talking about, like, you don't win wars by fighting things you hate. You do it by protecting the ones you love. And then she kisses Finn like they had chemistry throughout the whole movie. It felt so forced. It was such a bad section of the movie, and it ruined one of the best emotional moments that the film could have had. I was so ready to be like, oh wow, this came out of nowhere, but it was just fucking ruined. Because again, this movie did not want to take any risks. Something that people complained about with episode 7. The film took no risks. And I feel like we're just gonna get the same kind of patterns in all these movies. A lot of people are comparing this movie to The Empire Strikes Back, and I couldn't disagree more. Because in The Empire Strikes Back, it felt like the heroes lost. Everything was grim. Han Solo was missing. Luke was missing his arm. Cloud City was gone. The Empire showed that they are a force to be reckoned with. In this film, all I could think was, how the fuck is the Empire this stupid? Why are they sending all 30 whatever of their TIE fighters to chase one ship? Why are they focusing their fire on the big empty ship when there's a bunch of little tiny ships getting to the escape area? Why? They weren't a force to be reckoned with. They were just smarter than the stupid rebellion, but were also stupid. I don't know. It didn't hit a lot of the same Star Wars-esque moments that I was maybe expecting. Again, credit where credit is due. I do feel like Mark Hamill does a great job in this film. He is more or less kind of worthless. He doesn't really teach Rey anything. Yoda just kind of like, well, she already knows everything she needs to know. And he was more comic relief than I expected. Speaking of which, a lot of the jokes in this movie, they really didn't land for me, and I felt that they were really shoehorned in order to make this more like a Marvel movie. So just be wary of that, I guess. Obviously, if you're watching this video, then you've seen the film. But, J.J. Abrams had a few jokes in episode 7 that didn't really work for me either. So I can't really say that this is a brand new thing coming into the film. And Rogue One had some moments in there too that I didn't really like in terms of, jokes and comedy and stuff. But I felt like there was very few funny moments in this movie, and more moments that just felt like, why? Why did they do that? This feels like another just by the books, by the numbers Star Wars movie. It feels like a Star Wars fan made a movie rather than a director made a movie. There were so many moments in this film where I was like, oh, I bet you they put that in because they thought it looked cool, rather than it fits the narrative and it fits Star Wars. Overall, I gotta say that while I was entertained by this movie, I can't shake the feeling of disappointment I have with this. The love story I did not dig at all. I wasn't a big fan of Finn and Poe Dameron's and Princess Leia's and all that shit. I was not a big fan of it at all. Rey, Kylo, and Luke are the best parts of this movie, and Snoke, felt completely underutilized, and we're never gonna get it again because he fucking dies in this movie with no answers, nothing. He just felt like a big CGI like monster that could use the Force. He did nothing this entire film, and then he died. I mean, people are maybe going to react like, oh, it's so unexpected. We thought we were going to get all these answers and stuff. But it just felt like a lazy way to not give us answers, in my opinion. I know I complained about this movie a lot, and I really, really harped on it. But this movie isn't terrible. It's just painfully average and has a lot of flaws. And it doesn't really feel like a Star Wars movie, if that makes sense. It felt like a tutorial on how to make a Star Wars movie, but not as good. If I had reviews of The Force Awakens and Rogue One and this film, I would say that Force Awakens is a solid 7 out of 10. Rogue One was more like a 4 or 5, and this film feels more like a 6 or a 5. So basically that's where I would rate this new trilogy of movies so far. I wouldn't say that it was awful or that it killed interest in the rest of the films, because it didn't, and I'm still gonna go see Episode 9 when that comes out just to see the conclusion of Rey and Kylo's story. But for the most part, I was not a really big fan of this film. I thought it was kind of dumb, and it lacked a lot of emotional impact. This movie's gonna be really forgettable for me, and I really have no desire to see it again. I'm going to give this film a 6 out of 10.